Dave, in my opinion, you're the GOAT.
Dave Chappelle said something to me in the early 2000s. I held on to that.
Yeah.
Dave's a beast. Dave's a beast, man. That's the only man that puts a little fear in my heart.
I do comedy before Dave Chappelle. I was like, Dave, what am I even doing here?
Agreed, like he's the best ever at turning over a new hour.
This nigga very possibly has weapons of mass destruction.
How are the highs, man?
I'm Rick James, bitch.
David Carvey Weber Chappelle was born on August 24th, 1973. His father, William Chappelle, was a professor and dean of students at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. His mother, Yvonne Sion, also worked as a professor and university admin at multiple institutions, including Wright State University and Prince George's Community College. She was also the first black woman ordained as Unitarian Universalist minister, working for Congolese Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. Chappelle grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and attended Woodland Elementary School as a child. His parents would eventually split, so Dave would stay in Washington with his mom, then go spend summers with his father in Ohio. Chappelle first hit the comedy stage when he was just 14 years old and would attend open mic nights regularly. He cites Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor as being some of his early inspirations. He would eventually attend Eastern High School and Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. While still in high school, Chappelle's very first taste of notoriety came when he was featured in the first episode of ABC's America's Funniest People.
This is my impression of Batman fighting crime in my neighborhood. Excuse me, my impression of Batman fighting crime in my neighborhood. Robin. Yes, Batman. Didn't we park the car right here? I swear I was here a minute ago.
Post high school, he decided to move to New York City to pursue a career in comedy. One night, he went to Harlem's Apollo Theater for amateur night and was literally booed off stage. In an interview with James Lipton, he stated, "That night was liberating because I failed so far beyond my wildest nightmares of failing that it was like, hey, they're all booing, my friends are here watching, my mom, and this is not that bad." After that, I was fearless. Chappelle would continue to work on his craft, learning how to work crowds and performing in public places like Washington Square Park, and quickly found success. He would go on to sign his very first development deal at just 19 years old. We're now in the year 1992, and Chappelle's career continued to blow up within the New York comedy scene. That year, he would appear on HBO's Def Comedy Jam and AMC's Caroline's Comedy Hour.
Started having nightmares, man. The same nightmare every night. I'm walking home late one night by myself. Nobody else is around. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere, man. He puts a gun up to my head. You know what? He doesn't want my money or anything like that. He just says, click, click, click. Suck my dick.
In '93, Chappelle appeared on the American TV show Star Search, becoming the youngest comedian in the show's history at the time.
Now the challenger. At 19, he's the youngest comedian in Star Search history. From Washington, D.C., here is Dave Chappelle.
Thank you. Thank you.
That same year, he would also go on to make his film debut as Achu in Mel Brooks' film Robin Hood, Men in Tights.
Achoo! Bless you!
Your back just got punched twice.
Thank you!
He would eventually be offered another role in the classic film Forrest Gump to play Benjamin Bubba Buford, but he would turn it down. Ultimately, he found the role to be demeaning and didn't think the film would do well overall. He was about half right on that. In '94, Chappelle would make his first appearance on late night TV with David Letterman.
Our next guest is a wonderful new comedian who's making his first appearance with us tonight. We couldn't be happier. He can be seen regularly at New York's Boston Comedy Club, right here in town. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a nice warm welcome to Dave Chappelle. Dave, come on out.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I gotta tell you guys, that was a beautiful New York welcome.
And would also land a minor role as Ozzy in Undercover Blues.
Can we go?
The following year in '95, he would make a guest appearance on the popular sitcom Home Improvement.
I mean, we're constantly in trouble with our girl. I mean, no matter what we say, we're always in trouble.
The outing would actually go so well that ABC wanted to give him and fellow comedian Jim Breuer their own spin-off show titled Buddies. Shortly after taping the pilot episode, Breuer would get fired and be replaced by Christopher Garten. The show would eventually premiere in '96, but had poor ratings and was canceled after only 5 episodes.
Hey, man. How those books looking?
And now, the net profits for our first fiscal quarter come to a grand total of
$550,000.
In 1996, Chappelle would go on to land a role on The Nutty Professor, which starred one of his idols growing up, Eddie Murphy.
Hey! Boy, women be shopping. Women be shopping. You cannot stop a woman from shopping. Dang. Let me see what I got in the house tonight.
In 98, Chappelle and comedian Neil Brennan would go on to co-write the film Half Baked, which would also be his very first starring role.
Fire in the hall.
He's like the informant. I come in late at night from the club, he's sweeping and stuff.
Later that year, Fox was on the verge of picking up a sitcom about Dave's life called Dave Chappelle, which he wrote himself and had originally pitched for ABC. At the time, Dave was with his father back home in Ohio as his father just suffered a stroke. One day, Fox execs called him expressing interest in the show. Chappelle mentioned that it wasn't a good time to meet due to his father's condition. Dave would leave his father's bedside to go meet with them in Hollywood, which is a decision he says that he regrets to this day. Fox wanted to pick up the show for a total of 6 episodes, but with a few tweaks. This suggests that he changed the lead character, his wife, in the show from being black to being Caucasian, so that way it can broaden the show's appeal. Chappelle ultimately denied doing the show altogether and was left very disturbed by the whole ordeal. According to Chappelle, they fly me out for a creative meeting. I'm in a room full of white people, and they proceed to tell me why we need more white people on the show so it can have more universal appeal.
So I quit.
Did you accuse them of racism?
Absolutely. It was racist. But the idea that unless I have white people around me on my show that it's unwatchable or doesn't have a universal appeal is racist.
Executive producer of the show, Peter Tullen, stated, "We were trying to do a realistic depiction of Dave's life. Not a black show, but a smart, funny show that happened to be black," Tullen said. But Fox said there needs to be more white faces. Basically, Dave Chappelle cannot appear on Fox TV unless Whitey gets him in the door. It's embarrassing, and I realized I couldn't do it. It felt morally wrong. The situation left a sour taste in his mouth, so much so that his agent Barry would later say in Searching for Chappelle, he lost his innocence on that show. Chappelle's father would go on to pass away on July 29th, 1998. His passing affected Dave significantly. His death revealed the facade of Hollywood. The Fox situation, along with his dad's passing, would cause Chappelle to consider walking away from show business altogether. He would move out to a farm deep in the countryside of Ohio, and he was officially done, at least for the time being. Chappelle laid low for a couple of years, but in 2000 he recorded his first hour-long special with HBO titled Killing Them Softly in his hometown of Washington, D.C. In an interview with the New York Daily News, he talks about how his mother would need to chaperone for him to perform at clubs while still in high school. During that time, his mom would constantly critique his act, telling him she didn't like when he would curse. It would make him think more creatively to appease her. In the special, his goal was to basically speak from a black person's perspective, like situations with the police. "I don't hate the police, but I'm scared to death of them. I don't like the fact that they carry guns and I'm at their mercy. Rich black men feel that way, old black men, young black men, it doesn't matter," he continues to say. "I guess my cadence is slower. A lot of times they expect you to be a super high energy act, and I can be from time to time, but I'm not necessarily a high energy act. The title of the show speaks to the cadence. I killed them, and in comedy that's good, but I killed them softly." In 2003, Chappelle would debut the greatest sketch comedy show of all time on Comedy Central titled The Chappelle Show.
Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show. Oh! Woo-hoo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Yeah, yeah. Let's start the show.
The show would parody many aspects of American culture. The show would also feature musical performances by hip-hop and soul artists.
They go snitch to the pole. They all talk fast, but they all think slow. I'm most definite, not think so. Fudge this city with the black ink flow, and my crew ain't scared to let them things go. So stop with the nonsense, like he conscious. I'm just a wake dog. I'm doing great, dog.
In an interview with Howard Stern, he stated, "The idea was to do a variety show that was personal. It was like taking somebody on a tour through a young black man's subconscious, and I don't think America has been there." The show would be a massive hit as season 1 went on to sell more DVDs than any television show in history, topping The Simpsons back when DVDs were still a thing. On September 18, 2004, Chappelle went on to sign a deal for $55 million, plus half of all the revenue from the DVD sales, which some would say pushed the deal closer to about 9 figures. On September 4th, 2004, Chappelle would release his second official stand-up special, For What It's Worth, recorded at San Francisco's Fillmore Theater. Another instant classic, Chappelle delivers again with various bits, such as him smoking weed with an Indian chief, and one where a homeless guy jerks off on the subway and holds everybody hostage.
And then he started walking up and down the aisles, just terrorizing us.
Shortly after the special's release, inspired by the 1973 concert documentary Watt Stacks, Chappelle would host Dave Chappelle's Block Party in Brooklyn. The event featured Chappelle's stand-up routine along with multiple musical artists such as Talib Kweli, Erykah Badu, Mos Def, and The Roots, to name a few.
3 times. That's right. 2 from both nuts. That's right. Ain't nothing like a James Brown hit to set the mood. Hit me. See? Hit me again. That's right. Hit me. See? If you could do that in real life, you'd be powerful. If I could walk into the meeting, I want more money, motherfuckers. Hit me. Just might get it.
Fast forward to 2005, there were promos for the 3rd season of The Chappelle Show, but the network eventually announced that the season would not continue as anticipated. Entertainment Weekly reported that on April 28th, the comedian flew from Newark Airport to South Africa to check himself into a mental health facility, adding that his publicist has repeatedly denied persistent rumors of drug use. In 2006, Chappelle would go on the Oprah Winfrey Show to talk about his disappearance. He told her, "I wasn't crazy, but it is incredibly stressful." He says he was deliberately being put through stress by the network and that people were trying to control me. I would go to work on the show and I felt awful every day. I felt like some kind of prostitute or something. Starting in 2008, Chappelle would make random appearances at comedy clubs without much notice. Also in that year, he would attempt to set the record for most hours of crowd work straight, which was originally set by Dane Cook at 7 hours and 34 minutes. He was able to get to 5 hours, but then needed to take a bathroom break, which would ultimately disqualify him. In July of 2011, Chappelle performed at a Summer Groove charity event in Miami. At the event, one of the audience members would start filming his show, and Dave got so upset by it that he stood on stage for a reported 45 minutes without saying much of anything.
Next year.
In August of 2013, Chappelle returned to touring full-time as he was featured as the headliner during the Oddball Comedy and Curiosity Festival. While still trying to get back in the groove of things, one of Chappelle's most notable shows was in 2013 when he was performing in Hartford, Connecticut. Chappelle was scheduled for a 25-minute set and came out to a crowd full of hecklers. The heckling got so bad that it drowned out the PA system. He would try to continue his act, but he would eventually walk out mid-performance.
Dave is fucking choking. He hasn't sent out there for 20 minutes. Dave
Been
Chappelle.
excited before.
Come on, Dave!
It's fucking ridiculous.
Chappelle had a follow-up show in Chicago and would address the night by saying, "I don't want anything bad to happen to the United States, but if North Korea ever drops a nuclear bomb on this country, I swear to God, I hope it lands in Harvard." The grudge wouldn't last long though, as he would eventually make his way back to the city a year later for the Oddball Festival and receive standing ovations during his set.
Thank you so much. Boy, I wish you guys were here last year. This city is schizophrenic. It's like a whole other city from last year. It's just retarded is what I'm trying to say.
In 2014, he would make his first major New York City appearances in over a decade, performing at Radio City Music Hall and making appearances on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, The Today Show, and David Letterman. In 2016, Chappelle would go on to host Saturday Night Live the same weekend where Donald Trump won the presidential election. In his opening monologue, Chappelle would address the situation head on. He would end it by stating, "I'm wishing Donald Trump luck and I'm going to give him a chance. And we, the historically disenfranchised, demand that he give us one too." In late 2016, Netflix announced that they would be releasing 3 stand-up specials from Chappelle to be released in 2017, titled The Age of Spin, Deep in the Heart of Texas, and Equanimity, for a total of $20 million per special. These would mark Chappelle's first official special releases in 12 years. They would go on to be a major success, as Netflix would announce that they were the most viewed comedy specials in Netflix history. The first 2 specials would go on to be released on March 21st, 2017, first being Deep in the Heart of Texas, which was originally filmed at Austin City Limits Live in April of 2015.
She really took one for the team on that one. It's really gross. This dick is like 80 years old. It's like tasting history.
The Age of Spin was filmed at the Hollywood Palladium the following year in 2016. Here he would drop insight on race relations, O.J. Simpson, and technology.
Although Dave Chappelle, the black American, he was a little jealous. I was like, how the fuck are transgender people beating black people in the discrimination Olympics?
Equanimity would be filmed in late 2017 at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. This special, Dave would lean in on addressing the hate he received from the transgender community and also touches on fake news.
You know how I know I'm getting old? This is embarrassing, but I was in my hotel room. I'm not gonna lie, I was jerking off, like, and I was like really sweating it out. And this is when I knew I was old. I just gave up in the middle, like nothing even happened.
In November of that year, he filmed his fourth special, The Bird Revelation, at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, where he talks about sexual assaults dominating 2017. The Bird Revelation would eventually be part of an expansion deal, which would be released with Equanimity on December 31st. At the beginning of 2018, Chappelle would receive a Grammy for Best Comedy Album for The Age of Spin and Deep in the Heart of Texas at the 60th Annual Grammy Awards. In September of that year, he would receive an Emmy for Equanimity for Outstanding Variety Special. Chappelle would go on to win yet another Grammy for Best Comedy Album in early 2019 for Equanimity and Bird Revelation. On August 26, 2019, Chappelle would go on to release his fifth Netflix special, Sticks and Stones. The project would be his most controversial as it received backlash from the LGBT community as well as cancel.
This guy, R. Kelly, got another sex tape out now. Can you believe that shit? This guy makes more sex tapes than he does music. He's like the DJ Khaled of sex tapes. Another one. Like, damn, they got it's a lot of tapes.
On June 12, 2020, Chappelle released the special 846 on Netflix and YouTube. It wasn't your traditional comedy special as it was recorded at a private outdoor venue in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were prolonged periods of time without laughter, and Chappelle for the most part was able to make it work with his storytelling. The title was in reference to the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that police officer Derek Chauvin was kneeling on the neck of George Floyd. He would go on to discuss Floyd's murder as well as the subsequent protests that ensued. On October 5th, 2021, Chappelle would release his final Netflix special, The Closer. In this special, Chappelle essentially stands up for comedy in a time where comedy was being frowned upon while also addressing the LGBT community directly. On October 20th, Netflix employees organized a walkout protesting against Chappelle's jokes made toward the LGBT community. This year in 2022, Chappelle is still touring. One of the most notable moments of this year was when he was performing at the Hollywood Bowl in LA as part of the Netflix's A Joke Fest. An audience member decided to rush the stage, tackling Chappelle to the ground, to which he was immediately met by security. On November 12th, Chappelle went on to host Saturday Night Live for the third time in his career. Chappelle has had a long and illustrious career. He's made classic films, shows, and specials. He's won numerous awards and is said to be the greatest comic of all time by many. It'll be interesting to see where his career goes from here, but for now, all we can do is just wait and see.